she is the marketing leader of a team of about 8 people. Half of them have been working with her for many years. The other half is new. But this business had it broke, you know, they cut it into 2 different parts. So they are kind of in a space of rebranding completely, rebuilding with some old knowledge, some new, and having to manage all of this. Very tight time frames for them. Also.
You could watch the movie.
Sounds fun.
Sounds like fun. Okay, cool. So based on that, any questions, observations? Let's start with observations. Well, if you just take the top 4, under empathetic, and you talk about relationship style, what do you notice? Did you want me to ask different questions?
No. I'm fine. I'm keeping quiet.
The empathetic and logical, you've got someone who, as you mentioned earlier, have managed to make their everyday, they've worked on both to make sure that they can be empathetic but also be strong and logical and professional, head and heart.
Integration.
Yeah.
And you can see it's quite natural for them, so they worked just a little bit, but it was easy because they're high underlying, they've got the paradox all the way down. But you also mentioned about that paradox, where's the problem, potentially?
If you push to overextended, so probably give in and become too soft, too giving, too less able to contain that space.
Yeah. And on the other side, too argumentative. So what I would talk about there is where someone is high on all 3 personas, it's like they've got this high level of competence, it's very natural for them, but it's so natural that they've become less conscious in the way they use it. They don't have a boundary on it. So it's like an unboundaried asset. So they are fantastic around logical, common sense, they can argue their case really well, but sometimes they can be argumentative. And if it was only argumentative, it wouldn't necessarily be a problem, because maybe it's good to argue a case, it's engaging, it's could be stimulating, but because why would this be an alert potentially? What else do you notice that's aligned to argumentative, which means this is a pattern which could be problematic? And whenever I'm looking at overextensions, I'm always thinking about what's the impact for me personally, what's the impact on my relationships, and what's the impact on their effectiveness. So can you see why the logical overextension may be an issue?
In the overextended?
Yeah.
It could be the tougher takes charge. I'm not sure which one.
Yes. Well, both. Both. Because as soon as there's a pattern on takes charge, tough, logical, and you've got 88, 99, and 83, there's a pattern around basically losing it at times. And think about the overextension takes charge is controlling, tough seeks conflict and argumentative. So the 3 together are quite a powerhouse, and that they could be quite overwhelming. However,
to be right than to feel the other person or hear what the other person's need is.
Now, how do you know that's momentary and not actually what they want to be and why they're trying to control it? What else is going on for this person that makes you know that they're not outright, that they lose it and get aggressive and overextend because
they're strong in their underlying green.
Yes.
Collaborative.
Yes. So they've got a big heart. Their empathy, their heart's always going to be a mediator to this unbridled red. But when I think, Brian, you mentioned what happens when someone moves from one to the other, I'm getting a bit of the sense that this person is going to be moving at times from one to the other without control. Because they can overextend on the reds, but they also overextend on the greens. Now, the good thing is that the red will be contained to a point. They're not going to just ride shot over people because the heart's going to keep them in check. But for me, it gives a sense that there's not a sense of breath and groundedness in how they use their greens or their reds. So it could be confusing to people because they're seeing extremes of both.
And with this strong way of handling things, the red, they lose their focus when it comes to being purposeful. So they might even confuse people more because they are adaptable, but losing a little bit of focus.
Okay, so that's brilliant. So let's move to that now. So they're losing their focus, and notice the yellows. How will that impact losing the focus? What are they also trying to do here?
When they lose their focus, they become very conceptual, imaginative, and they're all over the show.
So
The ideas are popping in and
yeah, so,
being
so
thrown out.
the reason I'm not going to say all over the show only because